Hello everyone, welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with me and Welsh. Today's guest is Aamito. She's winner of African Next Top Model. She's originally from Uganda, but from winning the African Next Top Model has gone on to do bigger and better things. And she's inspired me in a number of ways because she just used her modeling platform to go around the world and show young girls where they're out there that whatever opportunity you get, you keep multiplying that opportunity and using it for the better. And not just for her, but also to help the rest of the world. Meet Aamito.
Growing up in Uganda and being raised in Uganda, and then at 21 years old, you leave and you start a new life elsewhere with 20-hour plane ride back home is not the easiest thing.
So the final challenge awaits in New York, and then
the first ever winner of Africa's Next Top Model is Aamito.
Welcome everyone, welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. I've got the gorgeous Aamito. You are amazing. I read your story and read everything about you, and I cannot believe what you've done to create a pavement for others who are following your footsteps. But before we start, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and for anyone who don't know who you are, just give us a little bit of a background.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, and I'm so glad to be here. This is the first interview that I've done in months. So in case I stutter or I kind of look weird, please bear with me. I'm called Aamito, and I'm from Uganda. I live in New York now. I moved to New York in late 2014. After winning Africa's Next Top Model. It was a competition hosted by a supermodel called Oluchi. She's Nigerian. I don't know if you've heard of her.
I've heard of her, yes.
Yeah, she's one of my mentors. Love her to bits. She hosted a competition, a continental competition all around the continent of Africa called Africa's Next Top Model. And I went for the casting in Nairobi. They didn't have a casting in Uganda, where I'm from. So I took a bus to the casting in Nairobi. And I won the competition, the whole competition. So yeah, so here we are today. And that's a little bit of a background.
It's absolutely. So I've not been to Uganda, but I've been to Nairobi, and
Right.
I've been to South Sudan.
Right.
I've always been very close to coming to Uganda, but every time I try to go there, something else detours me away from it. So so let's start from the very beginning. So you're born and bred in Uganda, right?
Yes, born and bred in Uganda.
Okay. Yeah. So how did you get the information? First, growing up, how was it as a young girl growing up? Because obviously, to be a model from a young age, you kind of know that you have that special thing. Because there's something always distinctive about girls who are models, from the way their bodies are shaped. I say to you, it's a natural thing. It's either you have it or you don't, because it's one of the things that your body just is shaped right.
Yeah.
It just gets the camera right. When did you discover this when you were living in Uganda?
Well, I think it was phases, right? So it wasn't like a particular moment that that told me, oh my God, this is it, you know. It was different phases in my life. I remember when I finished high school and I was going into college, I was still in high school, I think, at the time. When I got stopped, I was going for like holiday studies, and I got stopped on the street, and they were like, oh, you could be a model. And they took me into, this lady put me in her car, which is very bizarre and weird, and took me to a modeling agency in Uganda. And she was like, I just met this girl on the street. I thought I would drive her here and bring her to you. And then they asked me a couple of questions, and I was really young. I was about 14. And they were like, yeah, you're too young. You're so young, but come back in 2 years when you're like 16. And so when I was 16, I went back to that same modeling agency, and I did a couple of trainings here and there. And I started to work then after that, I went to college. And then during college, that's when I started to do a little bit of modeling here and there in Uganda still. But my mom obviously did not approve of modeling because, well, I come from a conservative family, and just the sound of being a model is similar to telling your parents I'm a prostitute. It's like you're either a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or a failure. Like it's no in between, you know. And so I told my mom, you know, I'm going to do modeling to help me with, you know, pocket money while I'm in college and things like that. And so I did it. I continued to do it. And my mom was like, you know, this is a phase. It will pass, whatever. But I think one thing that stood out for me typically, like that told me that maybe I had something, was when Franca Susani, she's the former...
yes, I've met her. Italian Vogue editor.
Italian Vogue editor.
I read her
came to Uganda. I was 19 years old. She came to Uganda, and they held this extravaganza for her, and they were looking for models to do like a small fashion show for her when she came. And there were no models. I was the last to be chosen because I was doing exams, and I wasn't that into the modeling scene, but I was doing exams. I was like, I don't want to, I'm doing my college exams. I'm just gonna, you know. Yeah. And they were like, please, please, please do the fashion show, whatever. So I did the fashion show anyways. And Franca, after the fashion show, Franca came backstage. She was like, wow, you know, she said some words like, you have what it takes, or believe in yourself, or something towards me, right? And she particularly gave me her email address. And out of all the girls, which was kind of special. Yeah, it was kind of, so I was like, you know, maybe there's something here we can work with, right?
Yeah, because that's what cool.
Yeah, and I thought that was a special moment for me, and that was a moment that I was a little bit sure that maybe I had what it took to pursue modeling internationally and not just have it as a hobby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how did you find out about the African Next Top Model, which I think is almost like what the Tyra Banks did in America with the American Next Top Model. So how did you find out? Who told you about this and apply?
So, well, it was on Facebook. It was going around on Facebook, and they were, you know, mentioning the countries that they were going to audition in. So they had, you know, the usual suspects: Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa. They had Nairobi, Tanzania, and a couple, Mozambique, Angola, a couple of other countries. They didn't have Uganda. I was like, great, this is a sign. This is not for us, right? And I was like, okay. But a couple of friends sent it to me. A couple of models in the Ugandan community were like, you know what, let's travel to Dar es Salaam, because they had an audition. They were supposed to have an audition in Dar es Salaam as well. Let's travel to Dar es Salaam for the audition. And we all were like, yeah, let's go to Dar es Salaam for the audition, because, you know, in our heads we're like, sorry. In our heads we were like, you know, Dar es Salaam, they might be girls, but, you know, there might not be very many girls who look like us, right? And so we were in between. We weren't sure whether we were gonna go or not. But 2 days to the audition in Nairobi, I received a text from one of my friends who's a fashion designer in Uganda called Gloria Wabamuno. And she told me, you know, I think you should try this out. I really do think you should try it out. And I was like, whatever. So I asked my mom for transport fare to Nairobi. My mom was like, are you mad? Are you crazy? No, absolutely not. And I pleaded with her. I was like, look, if you give me this chance to go to Nairobi and do this audition, it will be the last time I ever talk about modeling. It will be the last time. I'll just, focus on getting a job, focus on my career as a PR. I had done PR in college, and just forget about modeling. This is going to be my last try.
Yes.
And my mom was like, you have a deal. That's cool. I'll give you the money. So she gave me the exact transport fare to and fro. So there was no in between of like, what if something happens and you can't travel back? It was like, that's on you. Like,
yes.
That's on you. So I had the exact transport fare to take a bus, a 16-hour bus at the time, to Nairobi, and then take it back that same day back to Kampala. And I was like, I'm going to do it. So I took a bus at 2 p.m. and I arrived Nairobi the next morning, 6 a.m., the day of the audition. And I did the audition. And while we were doing the audition, because it was so long and there were so many girls from all parts of Kenya, I had to leave. It was around 7 p.m. and I had to leave. I was like, listen, my bus is leaving. But they were doing, during the audition, they were using the elimination method, right? So if they eliminate you, you go home. If they don't eliminate you, you stay and go to the next stage. So I kept on making it to the next stage, And I was like, great, it's 7 p.m. They haven't yet finalized. I have to go. Otherwise, I don't have where to stay. And I told one of the producers, listen, my bus leaves in like 30 minutes. I have to go back to Uganda. I don't have where to stay here in Nairobi. I just came for the audition and I have to take the bus back. And he was like, give me a couple of minutes. So he goes inside, does whatever he's doing, comes back outside. He goes, we haven't yet finalized, but we know who you are. We've seen you go from one phase to another, and we'll let you know if anything, right? And that was as vague as it is. I was like, let me know. Oh my God, this is the end. Great.
Not what you put here, yeah.
So vague. I was like, oh. Anyway, I was like, so I ran to my bus because I had like 10 minutes before, the bus took off. And by the time I arrived at the bus station, they'd already even given up my seat. But thank God I had spoken to the bus conductor before. I was like, listen, I'm going for this very important meeting. Do not leave me in Nairobi. Otherwise, I don't have where to stay. And as soon as I arrived, it was like, I had given out your seat. And then he, had to take out someone and gave me back my seat. And it was a whole dramatic thing. And I sat in the bus and cried. And I cried so hard because I wasn't sure of what had come for the audition, but I had given it my all. And for me, those tears felt like, okay, this was the last time I was trying out modeling, and that's it. I'd closed the chapter, going back home, starting, my life as an ordinary Ugandan, whatever, And so I went back home. My mom was like, so? I'm like, so nothing. I did the audition. They said they'll call me, but I don't want to think anything of it. Whatever. My mom was like, well, you have to start applying for jobs. Look for a job, begin doing internship, whatever it takes, like start your career as a professional PR or whatever. And I did that. I started doing that. But before that, I think I started applying for schools, I wanted to go back to school, like get higher education and stuff like that. And 3 weeks later, Oluchi herself called me. She was like, Aamito, we would want you to come down to Cape Town and be a part of, the whole competition. I was like, wait, what? Wow. I was like, okay. Anyway, she was like, listen, you've made it to be among the 12 girls who we want to come down to Cape Town and be a part of our whole TV show. It's going to be filmed in Cape Town and, blah, 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 and all the details and all the winner gets this and all that kind of stuff. And I told my mom, I'm going to Cape Town. She's like, what? Did you go through? Did they pick you out of all those girls in the audition?
Wow, that is amazing.
So shocking. Yeah, I was so shocked. I was just like, wow, because all the girls that I met during the Nairobi audition were so gorgeous. You can't even imagine. Like girls who have been modeling for years, who are almost professional, right? They know their thing, and they were so beautiful and so stunning. I mean, it's the country where Ajuma is from. So you can imagine the kind of stunning creatures that came to the audition. But yeah, so they called me. I went to Cape Town, and we stayed in Cape Town for a couple of weeks. And still going through the elimination process of, if you don't win a challenge, you go out like that. But I made it until top 3, and then the top 3 were brought to New York. And in New York, the agency, one of the sponsors was DNA. Sponsors of the show was DNA Models, and DNA was supposed to choose the winner among the 3 of us. And so we did have a go-see, kind of like an interview with DNA, and they chose me as the winner, which was very exciting.
That is an amazing story. I mean, just you come from this humble beginning, and all of a sudden you are just all over the papers, and you become this winner. And you know what? What's even more amazing is one of the stories where your parents it wasn't really their passion.
No.
You know, you have so many kids out there that their moms and dads are really the one, they're driving them every day to casting, and doing all sorts for them. But you had that negativity against you, because that's not really what your mom wanted you to do, especially since she just wanted you to get a normal job. And you were able to, with all adversity thrown at you, you were able to turn that around and become this successful model. So tell me, after winning, how has your life changed from where it was before to now, and how are your parents taking that?
I mean, it was from 0 to 10. I was just, like a ordinary Ugandan girl walking on the streets of Kampala, and before I knew it, I was flying every single week from metropolitan city to another metropolitan city. My dad actually is English, but my dad lives in England, so I did not grow up with my dad. I grew up with my mom in Uganda. And I think that starting modeling and traveling to London often, it sort of helped me start like a relationship with my dad. I could meet him every time I went to London. I could meet my extended family who lived in London. So I think it has changed a lot. It has brought me closer to, my dad, and it has also opened my eyes to the different possibilities that the world has, right? I didn't think ever, I did not think ever in my life I would be living in Manhattan. That's where I live, or in New York, to be exact. And it's incredible. It's really incredible. And it's surreal. It's still surreal. I feel like every time I talk about it, I'm just like, wow, that happened.
And as a Black lady, you know, of the issues we face as Black ladies, has it been challenging for you to go one step forward, go for casting, especially when you came now to the big world? You know, in Africa, there's so many of us, so it's not much of a big deal. People know how to handle our skin complexion, so it's a lot easier. But now you're in this different world. You're in cities like London, Paris, Milan, New York. These are the fashion houses, but the disadvantage with these big houses is that they don't see a lot of Black girls. And even if they do, although they're starting to do that now. So when you started, was it a difficulty? Did you find any challenge with trying to fit in this new world you came into?
Absolutely. I mean, yes, I did. I don't even know where to start talking about this. I'm trying to think of how should I bring this up. But yes, I had a lot of challenges in terms of being a Black woman in the fashion industry, or being a Black woman living, being a minority, first of all, I moved from Uganda, where I was not a minority at all. I looked like just the next girl, except for my height, which, that is the only thing maybe that made me a minority, quote unquote. And then I moved to New York City, or to the US and all over, where I was kind of faced with my Blackness. Like, I say this all the time. I did not know I was Black until I moved to the US.
Yes.
You know, it didn't really sink into me that, oh, you're actually Black. You know, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't the way that I would introduce myself. I wouldn't be like, hey, I'm a Black woman. You know, it wasn't a thing that I would do. I would just introduce myself as like, hey, I'm Aamito. You know, like, you know, it's me. But moving here I feel like it has given me, it has helped me sort of get in touch with my Blackness more and on a more conscious level. I feel like I was in touch with my Blackness, obviously, but it wasn't that conscious. It was just something that yeah, whatever, you know, I'm just like the next person. But here I'm more conscious about it. And I'm more conscious about recognizing the positive things about being Black, as opposed to listening to what everyone else around me says, you know. And moving to New York and the rest of the world, I say New York because I'm in New York now, but moving to the Western world, I think racism, I came face to face with racism, right? I didn't know what that was, or I didn't know how that felt like. But moving here, I felt like some opportunities were taken away from me just because I did not look like, you know, like the majority, right? So that was difficult. I remember once I was shooting in Paris, and I had mamas, you know, from the stylist and the makeup artist, and they were arguing. They were like, why would you say that? Why would you do that? And then, you know, one of the assistants told me they're arguing because the stylist says that the designer won't be happy if they put a Black girl in this dress. And I was so shocked. I was like, whoa, it is the 21st century and this is still happening, you know? And yeah, I feel like I'm also still learning a lot when it comes to racism, because it's not my background. I grew up in Africa where everyone looks the same, and I'm still learning a lot and educating myself. And when it comes to those little microaggressions of like things they say, and how to recognize that and how to sort of shut that down, you know, it's not been easy. It's been really difficult. I remember once, I woke up once during Fashion Week. I was in Milan, and something had gone viral on the internet, and it was a picture of my lips, right? I don't know if you've read that online.
No,
Have you read that? Oh my God. You haven't read that?
I missed that one out.
Oh my God. So there was this, so I was backstage. It was during Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. And, you know, a mock makeup artist, you know, painted my lips with like blue lipstick. And then she posted a picture. Mark posted the picture on their page. And it looked like a heart shape if you turned it around, right? And it looked like a heart shape. And I thought it was beautiful. I was like, oh, my lips look like they're, you know, in a heart shape.
Yes.
And I woke up the next morning and my page was bombarded with like, first of all, it started on the Mark page. You know, Mark page had like comments of like, oh my God, ugly lips. Like one lady was like, oh my God, those lips are so ugly, like super, like just racial slurs. Yeah. And then obviously people came into defense and they defended. They were like, how can you say that? I mean, you guys, you pay to get these lips and all that kind of stuff. And I was just bombarded with all these like, what do you think about? And I was like, I don't know what to think. Like, I don't know what to do in such a situation, because it was my first time having to deal with racism. And I didn't know what to do about it.
Yes.
But that was like one of like the monumental times for me when I had to like go deeper and understand what racism is and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So
no,
yeah.
I'm absolutely delighted that you shared that with us, because I think I'm also from Africa, from Nigeria, and I was in the UK. I was not born here. I came to the UK when I was 2, but I went back again when I was about 9, and I stayed in Nigeria. And when growing up, I never saw myself as anything else. I just saw myself as just being Anne. And
yeah, right?
Who are you? I said, man, I don't know who else I am. But, you know, coming here, I realized that I'm not just Anne anymore. I'm Anne, the Black girl, woman. You know, there was so many segregation of Anne that I had to adapt to. I was Anne, the Black girl. I was Anne, the woman.
Right.
and the disabled girl because I had sickle cell anemia. So I was
Right.
and the disabled girl, and I was like, wow! All of a sudden, all these three categories I'm now defined as,
Right.
and I didn't know these things existed because honestly, when I was growing up in Nigeria in secondary school, all they knew me was just my name. And no one gave me so many different identities. So what I'm going to
Identity.
do,
Yeah. So many boxes to fit in. Yeah.
so I understand where you're coming from, but I always had to channel my energy back to anytime I get in a place where I try to get upset about it. I just
Right.
remember my growing up in Africa where it was so peaceful and no one tried to identify me. Although
Right.
we have our own little issues with the tribalness, but it wasn't as such as you is so defined in a structured way here.
Right.
But moving on from that, it's such a subject that I never know where to fit it in. What I just try and do is I just like keep showing positive image, like you have doing and I'm doing for the rest of the world, for the upcoming world, for them to believe and see there's a positive light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
And no matter how people define you, just keep being you.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and this is why I reached out to you because you are truly you, and I love your page. I love what you do. I love what you stand for. The Ugandan girl who came to the West and is doing exceptionally well and still remain humble, which a lot of people
I appreciate that.
Yeah. How did you go on to get onto the fashion stage when you did your first real fashion show? How was that for you when they said, "Okay, Aamito, you've got this fashion show"? How did you go on to do that? Was it nerve-wracking for you, or what was it like?
Absolutely, you best believe. It was it was nerve-wracking because I wanted to be good at it. I like to call myself a perfectionist. Not really a perfectionist, but sometimes I feel like I'm a little OCD about those things. But yeah, I wanted to do really good, and I was so nervous. I was like, what if I fall? I had all these thoughts in my mind. What if I fall? What if this happens? I just wanted to be sort of that representation for any girl back in Africa. Like, you can do it too, like I'm not special. You can do it. It's possible for any one of you out there. And it was a lot of pressure for me. I don't know if you've watched a little bit of the show, the Africa's Next Top Model show, but in the first episode, they're waving the Ugandan flag, and I begin to cry. And I wasn't crying because of anything. I was just crying because I felt a lot of pressure. I felt like I'm representing the girl, my younger self, and there is a lot of us out there who were in the same situation as me, who are in the same situation as me, and I want to give them hope and be like, listen, you can overcome whatever obstacle is put in front of you, and you can be the best version of yourself, and you can go on to be in places that you've never even imagined that you can be in, if you only believe in yourself and just trust that a way will come through for you. Wow. So
that's how you managed to just do the walk and keep going.
Do the walk and keep going, and just remembering I represent a young girl out there who wants something for herself. It might not be modeling, who wants just to be, who wants to be better, right? Whatever the dream is. And just thinking of that sort of helps me push through and be the best.
So when you see yourself in all these fashion magazines and you're on the front cover, how do you feel about that? How did it make you?
I feel proud. I do feel proud. I do feel proud. I don't want to say accomplished because I never feel accomplished. I always, I'm always striving to be better than I was yesterday, but I do feel proud and grateful and really thankful, because it's an opportunity that has been given to me for a reason. And my only prayer always is I hope I'm fulfilling that reason, right? I hope I'm using that opportunity well.
And how's mother taking it? How is your mom taking it now?
Oh, she's great.
Now that you're now into this whole scene, and this is something she wasn't even supportive of.
Right.
Now
she's supportive, and even when she didn't want me to do modeling and stuff, it wasn't because she didn't want me to do what I wanted. It was just because she didn't see a vision for modeling. Like I'd said in Uganda before, like if you told someone I'm a fashion model in the 90s, they would be like, you're probably a call girl or probably like a prostitute, you know? It was something along those lines. It wasn't a real profession that anyone would strive for and be like, I want to be a fashion model and be like a real professional fashion model, right? And so for her, she thought, listen, I don't want my daughter to be associated with this kind of image, right? And I'm an only child, you know? So she's like a, you know, a tigress, very protective. But when she saw that I was really determined and Africa's Next Top Model came along and I went through to, you know, to Cape Town, and after Cape Town, I went to New York, she was like, well, maybe there's something there. Well, who am I to say no? And yeah, she's come around. She's very supportive. She's happy, very happy for me.
Hey, we've come to the end of the interview, our conversation with you. But I always end with message of hope. People are going to watch this thing and think to themselves, you know, a message of hope, mostly people in Africa right now. They are all looking for the next best thing, looking to do what you've done, seeing how easy. But what would your message of encouragement be? Because obviously there have been challenges along the way. It hasn't been a smooth path for you and you haven't had it easy. What would your message be to that little girl listening closely to this interview and wondering to herself, I want to be like her when I grow up, but I don't know how? What would you tell her today?
When you sit in your room quietly and think to yourself that one thing that you want to be or one thing that you want to do for yourself, for your family, whatever it is, and you just have to trust without any single doubt that you will be that. Picture it in your mind, visualize it. I visualized when I was about 18 that I would win a competition, and that I would live in the US, you know, and I did visualize that, and my visualization came to pass. I won Africa's Next Top Model. I moved to New York. Trust and believe that you will get there. Never ever give up. I always say that. It's so cliche, but it works for me all the time. Never ever ever give up, right? Because it will come to pass if you really really believe.
And anyone who wants to follow your page, what are your page handles? And anyone who wants to follow your movement, how do they follow you and know your work?
Well, I'm really good at replying to Instagram messages. So my Instagram is just Aamito Lagum, and all my social media is Aamito Lagum. My name, Aamito Lagum. Yeah.
Well, Aamito, I'm absolutely honored to have you on this conversation with myself. You inspired me, and you've inspired so many other girls, millions of girls out there who are wanting to be the next top model. And it might not take that shape. They could be the next top engineer, but there are all challenges along the way. And you've proven that if we stay committed to what we truly believe, we could get there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.